Dash's remarkable resemblance to Han isn't just occupation and body language. As Han did before him, Dash is hired by Princess Leia to watch over Luke Skywalker. Luke has returned to Tatooine to await Boba Fett's arrival with the frozen Han, and Leia asks Dash to be his undercover bodyguard. Good thing. The Shadows video game puts Dash on the streets of Mos Eisley, where he overhears a couple of unsavory swoopers plotting their ride out to Ben Kenobi's house to assassinate its current inhabitant, Luke. When Dash comes to Luke's rescue, the game player gets to fly a swoop. An ancient ritual in training to become a Jedi Knight is the building of a lightsaber. After losing his weapon against Darth Vader during the same pivotal duel in which Luke lost his hand and learned that Vader was his father, young Skywalker has successfully constructed a new one in Ben's home. Back on Tatooine, awaiting word of Boba Fett's anticipated arrival at Jabba's palace, Luke practices his fighting skills with R2-D2. The mirthful droid emits harmless beams of electricity from his electro-prod. It isn't much of a challenge for Luke, but the lightsaber exercise will at least keep him sharp for future hand-to-hand combat. Luke and R2 are outside of Ben's house on Tatooine when they hear a faint rumble from far off in the desert. The sounds grow louder and a plume of dust appears as someone obviously approaches. Luke soon spots the source, a gang of swoop riders, modified speeder bikes with a plow-like scoop on the front. Swoops are built for speed. They can hit 600 kilometers per hour, and often for troublemakers. Coming for Luke is a gang of a dozen outlaw bikers, and if he's guessing right, he's about to use his lightsaber moves for real. Moments later, surrounded by the din of roaring engines, a cloud of dirt and flickers of blaster fire, Luke is fighting for his life. He's outnumbered 12-1, and Luke's barely holding his own against the motley swoop crew. Actually, an assassination squad sent by Jabba at Caesar's request. He turns at the roar of an advancing swoop and sees a biker wielding a giant axe almost upon him. Lightsaber in hand, Luke sidesteps his attacker, then gives him a swift kick, which separates rider from swoop. Luke commandeers the machine, and second later is maneuvering it as deftly as those he rode as a teenager. Now the fight's a bit more fair. Like a space-age jouster, Luke rides his roaring steed into the pack, brandishing his lightsaber and toppling several more swoopers. Luke's still in big trouble against the bloodthirsty swoop gang. He figures his chances are better if he makes a beeline for Beggar's Canyon. He knows every centimeter of that ancient terrain, so he might be able to pick the pack off like womp rats. The troop is hot on Luke's tail, down Main Avenue, right onto Dead Man's Turn, and then zigzagging towards the Eye of the Needle. One rider is staying close, yet as Luke threads the needle as he had in his youth, the swooper isn't quite as lucky. Splat. Suddenly the survivors retreat at the sight of Dash Rendar, swoop and all. Luke can't believe his eyes, or that Leia sent Dash as his bodyguard. In the Dark Horse Comics Shadows series, Boba Fett narrowly escapes from Gaul, where he has to outsmart not only rebels, but also fellow bounty hunters intent on snatching Han. He has to dispatch mercenaries who sneak onto Slave One just before he lifts off. One, however, survives, as Fett learns when he picks up a transmission back to Gaul, coming from inside the ship for long. The crafty interloper is again able to resist Fett and destroys vital systems on his ship. Meanwhile, Bosk and his fellow hunters arrive on the same scene and attack a now vulnerable Slave One. Shizor's scheme of getting Vader to wipe out the rebel base, owned by one of Black Sun's rivals, and of embarrassing Vader before the Emperor, has gone smoothly. Now to deal with the renegade Aurora transportation, the Dark Prince dispatches Guri, who meets with a trio of Aurora honchos to discuss their traitorous transgressions. One, a muscle man named Tuye, launches into a tirade against Shizor, challenging his power and threatening Guri. Bad decision. She's on him in a flash, flinging him, chair and all, into a pair of Gamorrean bodyguards. Methodically, the deadly human replica droid executes all five. You can download the data set for Boba's voice on Patreon now. I'd suggest for you to watch the trailer for our animated Shadows of the Empire fan film. Leave a like, subscribe, and become a member on Patreon, or buy me a blue milk coffee on Ko-Fi to support this channel. Don't ask what happens if you don't.